We're here to make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's February 15th here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yun, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Chi-Ji-hee.
Good morning.
Good morning, and Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. Apple has seen its market share exceed 25% for the first time in South Korea. The U.S. tech giant reached this feat in 2023, slightly narrowing its gap with longtime rival Samsung Electronics. Counterpoint Research reported on Tuesday that Apple's market share has risen 3 percentage points on year. The company had been gaining traction in Korea as it saw its market share grow 1 percentage point each year from 2020 to 2022. Moving on to our second story. Over in the U.S., President Joe Biden's campaign has joined TikTok. This comes despite the Chinese app being banned on most U.S. government devices over security concerns. Back in 2022, Biden signed legislation that blocked most federal government devices from using TikTok over concerns that Beijing might be able to access user data. Nonetheless, because the social media app has over 150 million users in the States, especially younger users, the White House has decided to launch an account for Biden so that he has a higher chance of winning the November election. And ending off with local news, the Ministry of Health and Welfare has decided to allow D10 visa holders in Korea to work as caregivers, mainly because Korea is suffering with a dramatic shortage in caregivers amid a rapidly aging society. D10 visas are considered job-seeking visas. They're usually designed for those who freshly graduated from Korean universities or have worked in the country for at least a year. And the latest decision will allow these D10 visa holders to register for a caregiver certificate and then acquire an E7 working visa. Now, currently, there are around 16,000 D10 visa holders in Korea, and officials hope that their latest decision could alleviate the country's caregiver shortage problem and better brace the country for the rapidly aging society. That's why they're also trying to roll out a policy that gives incentives to foreign caregivers who've worked in the sector for more than 2 or 3 years. And these incentives include making it easier for foreigners to obtain a permanent residence or residency visa. Now, here in the studio, what do you guys think about this decision? And do you think it is actually the best way to grapple with South Korea's rapidly aging population and the shortage in caregivers?
I can see how people could think it's a good idea, but I don't think it's a good idea personally. I do understand that, you know, there will be qualifications and security checks needed to become a caregiver. However, especially when it comes to the elderly who get sick quite often, it could be a problem in regards to maybe language barriers or also cultural barriers. And the elder generation, the elderly, they don't speak very good English or Chinese or whatever language it may be. So there might be problems there with communicating health problems. I'm not saying that all Korean caregivers are, you know, 100% professional, but I do think they would have to at least have higher qualifications to become a caregiver here in Korea.
Right, and the government is going to roll out different education and training programs for foreign caregivers, but I think you mentioned an essential point there, which is allowing them to better learn their language or the culture so that they better communicate with who they have to take care of. Now, Chi, what do you think about this measure?
Well, I have a different opinion from Walter, because we've talked about, we've had an episode on young caregivers before who have to give up on their lives to take care of an elderly family member or an ill family member. So I think one of the solutions is to provide a lot more professional caregivers. And if we're seeing a shortage in our country, then it's a good idea to welcome foreign workers into the country. And Walter mentioned that there could be language barriers, but with caregiving, I feel like not so much talk is needed because it's mostly about physical work.
Right.
And you can really know the minimum expressions to communicate with the person you're taking care of.
And I think it's also a step for South Korea to better prepare into becoming a melting pot. We're seeing more foreign residents living here in the country, so hopefully this measure can allow more job opportunities and allow more foreigners to actually think of Korea as their next destination. But in the meantime, let's switch gears to our main discussion topic of the day now. Coddling your child, being a helicopter parent. Now, is this love or a form of obsession? My AI voice secretary will start today's discussion by first explaining what the quintessential helicopter parent is.
Helicopter parents are those who hover over their child's every single move, just like a helicopter. There are parents who are convinced that constantly pushing and supervising their child is the best form of love, or the best form of parenthood. This concept isn't new, but recently we've seen helicopter parents over-coddling their children even as they become adults, especially among Gen Z job applicants or college students who are bringing their parents to job interviews or asking them to call their university to explain that they're sick.
We're soon heading into spring, which means it's time for companies to welcome new employees. Universities will usher in freshmen, and it's certainly a hopeful time of the year when many young adults try to achieve their sky-high dreams. But a growing number of them seem to be requiring the help of their parents. And society refers to these over-coddling parents who try to attach themselves to their adult children as helicopter parents. So here at the studio, have you seen helicopters before in your life? And do you agree that a growing number of Gen Z and millennial adults are actually grown under helicopter parents these days?
Yeah, I've definitely seen helicopters before. But helicopter parents, yes, I've seen them many, many times because I was in the Hagwon or the academy industry for quite some time. But this is not just a problem here in South Korea, it's all over the world. And I think there are many factors that contribute to becoming a helicopter parent. One common one is that, parents these days, they don't see the world like as safe as they used to. Many parents, I imagine, especially with daughters, find the world a little too excessive, a little too dangerous in regards to crime and what happens when people aren't careful. So some parents could be like a victim to what we call social panic theory when they see something on TV or on the news and they might blow it up to bigger than what it actually is in proportion. So that's the reason why there are some, helicopter parents who are always overlooking their children, even up to the age of 20 or 30.
I know, even though their children have become adults, we still see them over-coddling them. What about you, Ji?
Well, I mean, it's understandable that parents want their children to succeed and live comfortable lives. However, some parents are becoming overprotective of their adult children to the point where it extends beyond primary, middle, high school, and even into college and even the workplace.
Right.
Now, an increasing number of parents are calling companies on behalf of their adult children to notify them of being unable to go to work due to health conditions, and even submitting resignations and even protesting rejections of employment. Now, in Korea, parents often view their children as children even when they become adults. However, their overprotectiveness undermines the autonomy as well as the independence of these children because they have to really learn to lead their own lives. Now, although not all parents are like this, like Walter, like myself, and like you, Yan, we've seen cases of these similar behaviors around us too, right?
Exactly, which is why we're going to reenact some of them. And we've seen so many cases of helicopter parents that have been uploaded on various online communities. And as I mentioned before, we're going to reenact a few real-life cases where people have been flabbergasted after seeing a grown adult being over-coddled by their helicopter mom or dad. And we have two separate skits prepared for you. Without further ado, ready, action. All right, welcome to News Generation. This is a job interview, and your name is Walter Lee, right?
Yes, correct.
All right, Walter, your first question, what could you bring to the table?
Well, I really think I'm the best person for this job. I can work hard.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. I just want to tell you guys that Walter is the perfect guy for this position. I'm Walter's mom. I just wanted to tell you that you should hire Walter because he's a perfect guy and he's the perfect person for this position, okay? Walter, don't stutter, all right?
Yes, Mom. Thanks.
And scene. Now we're going to reenact our second scenario right away. Ready? Action. Dad, look, this is for my university, and I got an A on my test, but I'm a little upset because my friend Anne and Cindy got an A+.
What? Oh, hang on, let me deal with this.
Okay.
Hello, this is Professor Che from News Gen University.
Yes, this is Shin Yeon's father. I want to talk to you about the test result my daughter was given.
Sorry, what seems to be the problem?
Well, I'm looking at a test right in front of me, and to me, it just seems flawless. So I'm just wondering why Anne and Cindy, her friends, they got an A+.
Wait, excuse me. So you're Yeon's father and you're calling on behalf of Yeon to talk about her grades?
Yes, what seems to be the problem?
And scene. Now, what's surprising is that these are all real-life cases of helicopter parents calling up universities, barging in job interviews, and it all happens with them over-coddling their children because they're afraid that they might not be doing the best job alone. But we're seeing this happening even as we speak. And have you ever had first-hand experience seeing a helicopter parent?
Yes, I have. There is one case that always sticks in my mind when it comes to helicopter parents. Is I used to teach a beauty pageant contestant, and her mother basically controlled her own whole life from start to finish of the day. So when she wakes up, what she ate, when she goes to the bathroom, when she showers, when she goes for dinner, what time she goes to bed. Now this was absolutely damaging to this beauty pageant contestant. I asked her what she likes to do in her free time, and the thing she said is like, I like to cry in the shower, which is extremely sad. So in my opinion, it's just abusive behavior.
What about you, G? Have you ever seen helicopter parents?
I did. So when I was 25, I was studying to enter interpretation graduate school in a cram school, and I overheard a mother calling to request that our daughter not be given too difficult passages to interpret in front of the class. Now, the mother was worried that her daughter might get discouraged and lose confidence if she was given overly challenging material, which is ridiculous, really. And the Parents Association of this one university had several queries that were posted on their website, and they were quite surprising as well because some of them had parents asking about ways to check their child's grades and even asking about changing the size of their adult child's uniform and talking about how to do the laundry. So they were requesting the university to teach their children how to use the washing machine in their dorms.
I mean, we do have internet portal sites out there for you to find out yourself. But quick question, Walter. You know you're a parent to a child yourself. Do you understand why parents would do that? Like, would you find your child, though she's only 1 right now, when she turns like 25, would she still be like a baby in your eyes?
Yeah, listen, my mum even calls me her baby, right? So there's a fine line to what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, and sometimes parents just can't see that. And I kind of understand from a parent's point of view, but you know, at the end of the day, it does put a lot of mental strain on the child, or even if the child agrees with their parents, it could really struggle with development later on. So of course we want what's best for our children, but we should also let them make mistakes, get hurt, and recover and learn from them.
Exactly. And Chi, I would like to ask you a same question, though you're not a parent yet. Where do you stand on the discussion topic of helicopter parenting? Do you think this is the right way to go?
Well, I don't think it's so healthy. As Walter rightly pointed out, it's important for people to learn and grow on their own through trial and error. But if parents constantly do everything for their children, they'll never learn to be independent fully. And when parents watch over everything their children do, it can make them feel incapable of doing anything right on their own. And this can lead to self-esteem issues as well when they grow up. And this constant hovering can also hinder a child's ability to develop vital skills such as problem solving and decision making. And these are skills necessary for them to thrive on their own in the future after they leave their homes.
Right, and we asked our viewers why they think some parents decide to become helicopter parents, whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally. If you take a look at the screen, you can find out what 3 of them had to share with us. Let's start with Leon. Leon said parents who felt neglected or unloved in their own childhood might overcompensate by being overly involved in their children's lives. Also, some parents see their children's accomplishments academically and in life as reflections of their own worth and may pressure them to achieve at high levels. User said getting involved in every aspect of their child's life is somewhat wrong, but I think it comes from a kind of unwavering love and support for their own child. Wondering said living vicariously through their children's achievements becoming their own, believing the children's achievements and failures reflect on their parenting, which might affect their self-worth, as well as feeling subjected to others' judgments. Now, we're also going to include a psychological expert, and she's going to tell us a bit more about the psychology behind helicopter parents. So stay tuned for our live interview. We're now going to turn to Seonmi Hwang, a professor from Torch Trinity Graduate University. Welcome, Professor Hwang.
Good morning.
All right, Seonmi, as I just ended off our first part of the discussion, I would like to know the psychology behind helicopter parents. What causes them to be over-coddling their children?
The word helicopter parents are interesting because it is a metaphor that refers to parents who are hovering over and closely monitoring their child's life like a helicopter. I think there are both controlling and trust issues behind this type of parenting style. People tend to take control to prevent situations they fear for coming. For example, when parents overly fear for their child experiencing failure or harm, and also when parents fear that the cause of their child's failure will be themselves, then they are more likely to desire to maintain a high sense of control. Low level of trust can be another issue because these parents believe that others, including their own children, cannot make a good decision as their own and cannot act responsibly as well as parents do.
Right. Well, this type of parenting doesn't seem to be confined just to South Korea. So how common are helicopter parents around the world?
Well, this phenomenon has emerged worldwide since the 1990s. This concept, helicopter parenting itself, was made by American scholars Klein and Fay in 1990. So obviously, it is not limited only to South Korea. When these authors first introduced this term to the world, they used it to refer to parents who can't leave their children even after their children become young adults. The children at this time are mainly college students, and we hear many worldwide news about some parenting interfering with student classes like you played in the skit before, and even workplace interviews. So definitely, yes, it seems like it's a global trend, and also I think overprotective parents are more common in achievement-oriented and family-oriented societies, such as the States, China, Japan, and also Korea.
So some experts say we've seen an increase in over-coddling parents since COVID-19. Why do you think that's the case?
Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic is not the only social influence to increase parental controlling behaviors. There are many researches show that many of those parents are baby boomer generation. Therefore, they got to experience excessive competition and job shortages for themselves. On top of that, we all experience uncertain times going through the pandemic. These fear factors can increase concerns about health and safety and also increase need of family protection for children. And one more thing is important factor is that the development of technology. Before the Zoom was used this often, parents could not be able to hovering over their students at home even though they really wanted. So remote learning facilities have made it easier for parents to deeply involve in their child's life unless they do exercise patience.
Right. And protecting a child is very important when it comes to parenthood, but obsessing over them or being too protective, overly being protective, doesn't seem to be the right way to go. So as a psychological expert, could you give us one solution for helicopter parents out there?
Sure. Overprotective parenting, as I mentioned before, happens when parents have less ability to trust others. What many people overlook is that trust is a personal ability, and in order to become a good enough parent, we really better practice trust. To build trust, parents need to recognize their own fear and why they want to eliminate it by controlling others' life. Their stories will be different. Some parents may be afraid of uncertainty, some may be afraid of being separated, or some might don't want to face their own abilities and own limitations. Personal circumstances may vary, but we really have to practice letting go of our concerns as an adult and trusting that there is something to be learned from every experience. This may take a long time, but I personally believe that this is a safe way to grow up together.
Exactly. Learning how to let go could be the true form of love, and it takes a lot of self-discipline. And hopefully we'll see that soon. Thank you so much, Professor Huang. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, and ending off, Walter, you're a parent yourself here on News Generation. So could you tell us what you think, what type of parent you want to be to Yuna, your child now? And even though overprotecting one could come from a place of compassion, as the professor said, practicing it in a self-discipline matter seems to be key. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so what she said really hit me hard because like I do have trust issues with a lot of people, and I got to learn to, stop not trusting so many people. But like, I want to be a kind father who takes care of my daughter's interests, but I'm going to try my hardest not to get too involved when she, so she doesn't feel restricted. Of course, that's easier said than done. We want our children to grow up really well, happy, live a healthy life, and pray that they are kind and strong.
Right.
But I will try my best to achieve this goal, but it's already proven to be very difficult.
I mean, I don't have a child myself, but I can already say that I empathize, and it's so understanding why parents are so worried about their children. We're living in times where it's just very difficult to survive on a daily basis. Also, given the fact that we're also economically very dependent on our parents as well, which is why I think some parents exert their power or control. But nonetheless, Chihi, as you mentioned before, this doesn't seem to be the most healthy parenthood. So any solutions or words of advice you'd like to give to fellow millennials and Gen Z who are aspiring to become parents one day?
Well, because we're living in such a competitive world and rivalry exists in society, parents are very worried and they feel like they have to get involved in their children's affairs to be able to protect them.
Right.
And it all comes from the thought that they want to be good parents. But my advice, although I'm not an expert, would be to tell these parents that even though they do less for their children, they can still be good parents. And they should really learn to lower their level of anxiety and the fear because their children will be okay. And emotional support is enough. And it's a good alternative to really be supporters of their children.
And I think based on our experience, though we don't have a kid ourselves, always giving enough space to someone actually allows them to come to you and have a conversation. And maybe that could be the first step you take, though it is difficult. And sometimes if you have trust issues or if you need psychological help, go talk to a counselor about it before doing anything else. Now, in the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Choi Ji-hee.
Thank you.
And Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
All right, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. We are News Generation.